something from.
Yeah, from.
Here. So I got to talk to your husband via email. And well, I will forward on to her, your interest in having
you speak. That's a great idea. Yeah.
And he said she just loves to talk songwriting, so she might very well be interested. And so I said, great, and let's see what we can make this happen since you're going to be here. So we appreciate you taking time to sit down with us and talk songwriting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here.
Is songwriting the only writing that you do?
I journal every day. So I've kept journals since high school. So I don't know if you can count that as writing, but
yeah, any writing is writing. I was thinking about writing to share with others.
I fully intend to write someday, but right now I don't. I just journal and songwrite, and I do blogs, and I think social media posts are a form of writing as well. You try and be
obviously not as lyrical or as measured as the words to your songs.
No, but a post is very much like a song. You're trying to say a lot in a little bit of time. And so for me, it's a challenge to do a post. Sometimes I'm not very, it's sloppy. But I think that we live in a world today with emails and text messages and social media where you do, as a writer, need to learn how to say a lot in a little bit of space, a little bit of time.
And so with songs, you just had to add the requirement of rhyming every now and then to make that work.
Exactly.
So how did you get started? Did you sing first and then write, or did you write and then start singing?
I sang since high school. I grew up in Clinton, Mississippi, which has a world-class, even to this day, show choir. And so singing was a very big part of my formative years. But I married very, very young. I went to college, married young, and was very intensely busy in raising a little family. So I would sing and do projects between babies. Right. Between the babies, and my husband was always after me to do something with singing, but I didn't play guitar, and I just didn't see how I could make that work, and so I never pursued it. So when I was expecting my 10th baby, a girlfriend of mine talked me into buying a guitar.
You waited to your 10th baby to get a guitar?
I was pregnant with my 10th baby.
Wow.
And I had some money saved up. And so I had a certain budget, and I told him what I wanted, and he pointed to a guitar on the wall, and I said, "That's the one I want." And he said, "Do you want to play it?" And I said, "No, I just want to buy it." And that guitar that immediately started the songwriting. Having the guitar in my hands.
So you bought the guitar, and did you immediately start out singing other people's songs, I assume, at first, or did you have some compositions already in mind at that point?
Singing other people's songs, you probably already know this, but it's called doing covers.
Right.
So even to this day, I don't do a lot of covers. So no, it was a real creative outlet for me right away with songwriting. And she and I, we did a show at the local RV park every Friday night. And if you can imagine, I was pregnant with my 10th baby, and I'd have to wear the guitar to my side, but we would do karaoke songs, and then we'd make ourselves do a couple songs on the guitar. And very bad, the playing was horrible because we just were starting. And I saved all that money that I made that summer to record the first songs that I wrote. And somebody got a hold of that CD and invited me to my first Cowboy gathering.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, and then it's been nonstop ever since.
And that daughter I was pregnant with, she's 10 years old now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How many, do you write sequentially, or do you have more than one song that you're working on, new songs at a time?
I have several songs I work on at the same time.
How do you do that?
So at the beginning of a new CD project, I'll get a notebook, and I will transfer all of my songwriting notes from my other journals. And I'll look through those ideas, and I start formulating what songs are going to be on that project. because for me, I like to have a project, a CD project that has a lot of variety to it. And so I really work hard on creating a different sound for each song so it's unique to itself. And then I write down some of the basic ideas for that song. Sometimes I'll write down, I'll even write down what style of music I want to write for it. And then I work from there. So when I sit down for songwriting, I can look through my book and decide which song I want to work on that day.
I see. They used to say that Louis L'Amour would have three different typewriters and have different stories at different places. And if he got into writer's block on one story, and he would write on the top of dressers because he didn't like to sit. And so he would just turn and go to the other typewriter and start working on that sort of thing. So I have never tried that, but...
That's a very similar process, yeah.
So you've been doing this, roughly, you've been doing it a long time, but 10 years. I mean, your daughter's 10.
I've not been doing it a long time. It's been, so from the time that I got the guitar, I did the summer, the gig at the RV park, but I didn't start professionally performing till maybe
But you have jumped into
7
this,
or 8
and I was
years
just
ago.
looking at this. 2010, you won an award from the Western Music Association, Crescendo. 2010 Female Vocalist of the Year.
It was surprising.
I mean, you had barely got into this.
Yeah, it was.
You're just a rising star at this point. And your album, this Wrangler Award for Ride a Wild Circle is doing great.
It's pretty.
Is it a little
incredible.
overwhelming?
It's a blessing. Because we provide for our family with music, and so it just feels like those type of things that come along and affirming the work that we're producing. I say we because I write and sing, but my husband manages.
Yeah, I've met him.
Yeah, he's a wonderful manager, and also he helps produce all the CDs. So it's very much something that is a team effort. But the awards really do make a big difference in a genre of music or in a genre of art like Western art that's not as big as some other genres. And so it really helps when, people are not hearing me on top 40 radio, that they can see that various organizations have recognized this music.
Right.
It gives us something to hang our hat on, so to speak.
I've heard it said that some songs or some songwriters really write a poem or something, or they try to do that, and then they put it to music. Is that how you work, or how is it you come up with your songs?
The first thing I do is I think about what I want to say, and then I find a way to say it, wrapping it around a story or a hook. In songwriting, we call the chorus or a part of the chorus the hook. And then I decide what style from there. So I really construct a song piece by piece, and very rarely do I write lyrics out as a poem and then put it to song. Poets, cowboy poets, will send me material, and I have taken their songs and taken their poems and put them to song. But the only time I've never altered anything is with the song on the last CD called Women and Horses. That's a beautiful poem written by Dale Page. I didn't alter a word. That is exactly as he wrote it. And I just added music.
One of the things that they talk about writers, particularly fiction writers, is that instead of writing like someone else, you find your own voice. That is true to you. So do you feel comfortable? I would assume that by now you do, that you recognize your voice.
Yes. I think we live in a world where authenticity is more important than it has ever been before. People have built-in BS detectors. And as artists, I think that as an audience, they can tell if an artist is working too hard for them to like that song. You have to, I think as an artist, at some point, you have a filter system about what you're going to write about, but at some point you have to shut off the filter and just write what you feel would please you. And that, I think when you write to please yourself, it has more of this authenticity.
Let me follow that up with in the instructions, which are you can go broke paying for all the classes on how to write a novel type of thing. They say if you want to be a good writer, you must be a voracious reader. So you have to read all the stuff and then you do yourself. Do you listen to other people's songs?
That's an interesting question, because I am a voracious reader. But this might happen to you as writers as well. I can listen to a really good songwriter, and it will intimidate me out of writing. And so what I do is when I'm working on when I'm getting really intense with my songwriting, which means I need to finish songs for a project, I will stop listening to all music.
Oh, okay.
So that it has more of my voice to it instead of what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I will research artists. And one of the ways that I research an artist is I'll listen to their song and I'll learn it exactly the way they did it. So I will learn a cover song, because I feel the only way to really grow as an artist is to gain new skills. And you gain new skills by studying other artists. So I think that pushes the writing, and it pushes the songwriting as well.
Well, for example, the Smithsonian has done a lot of recordings, so they've acquired a lot of old recordings. So do you like listen to cowboy or Western songs from way back when? Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
And I think you can hear that when you listen to my new CD.
Okay.
Is I really dug back into some of the old trail songs, and I wanted to include at least one of them, and it ends up that I opened the whole CD with one of those old trail songs.
Myself, I listen or particularly read the lyrics just to see the kind of expressions that they used, or words or phrases that I'm not, and then it'll kick off my research.
Exactly. Because a lot of the expressions that they use are unique to the time and place where they were. And that is one thing about Western writing, is that people think the American West is this one big melting pot, and it's not true. Especially up until the early 1900s, everything was very regional. So all of the expressions, all of the cowboying was very regional. Even the gear was very regional. And it wasn't until probably with rodeo and with modern technology that you see more of a blend. But even to this day, there'll be people ask me what words mean in some of these old songs. And if you don't know the context of the time and place it was written, the meaning of those words are lost. So yeah, that's a fascinating way to do research, is to.
Has anyone ever recorded one of your songs? In other words, my real question is, have you ever heard anybody sing one of your songs back to you?
I have, and it's an honor. But you know what's frustrating to me as an artist is that it's not happening very much. And the only thing I've had people tell me is that they're very difficult songs to sing. And so in that way, I kind of feel like a failure because they're not. I mean, the highest compliment you can get as a songwriter is for other people to sing your material. And there's very few people that have covered my work.
Well, for example, both of us have had basically audiobooks. So when you hear that's, the spoken is not necessarily our genre, so that when somebody performs our material, even though we paid them to, it's kind of freaky. It's kind of like, because it filters through the different medium.
Yeah.
So filtering through a different artist, it changes the song from your intent. It's like, I was an English major, and I remember reading, professors would say, well, this is what, William Shakespeare intended. And it's like, now that I'm writing, like, no, you had no idea.
You had no idea, yeah.
So let's skip that.
But isn't that what art's about? It's born, you give birth to it, but it becomes other people's baby. And that baby is whatever that person decides it is. I mean, I was looking at the art in the museum today, and you have no idea what that particular artist had in mind, but it means something to you that's deeply important or personal.
I was following behind a couple going to Cowboy church this morning, and this guy just in front of me was walking with his wife. He says, "Now I don't care whether you like that picture or not. It took a long time for that guy to paint it, and you got to respect that." All right, you write that down.
Let me ask you this: in some of the reviews I've seen of your work, you're getting about as many, and maybe not. I didn't read them all, obviously, but it seems to me you get as many compliments on your writing as you do your singing. And we've all heard of songwriters who try to sing their own work, and it just doesn't work. Yours, it works. That puts you in a special echelon or a special group that you have not only the voice to do it, but the talent to write it as well. Is that something you're cognizant of, or is it? I mean, did you worry the first time that you wrote something and said, "Oh, no, maybe I should get somebody else to sing it," or were you ready to take it on right immediately?
No, I get a lot of pleasure from writing and singing. It's very fun for me to do both.
Let me ask you this: why Western? Because we've seen the Taylor Swifts and the various others, Carrie Underwoods, whatever, that have almost become rock, whatever. But you've, so far at least, and you've got a lot of years ahead of you, have stayed into this genre. Why Western? Well, you've got the voice. You could probably do a lot of different ones.
Well, we live a life that's the Western music. I'm writing it from the context of the life I'm living. So we live in a really very remote area around a lot of ranching, and we're raising my children with horses, and it just seemed like a good fit for me. I understand when people hear the music that I'm not a typical voice you would expect to be singing Western music. Even sometimes when I listen to my music, it almost sounds maybe too intellectual or pretty. But I have a real passion for telling the story of the West, not only in the past, but for how I see it today as well. And the unique thing about Western music, which is very appealing to me, is that Western music is not about a certain sound. Like bluegrass music, it has certain parameters that make it bluegrass music, and that's in the sound, in the musicality of it. Western music can be about any musical style you can choose, from blues to folk to Western swing. You could even do pop. Chris Ledoux did it beautifully with country music and kind of a pop rock and roll sound. What makes a song a Western song is lyrical content. And so as an artist, I get to play around with different musical styles, and I get to tell the story of the West with different musical styles, which is exciting to me. I like that. And so as an artist, that's kind of what I like. And also another reason I stick with Western music is because I have venues to play in that are really exciting venues, like this venue, the Booth, Western Arts Museum. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I were doing any other genre of music, I don't know if I'd really find myself here. And this is a good place to be.
Do you separate out in your mind writing and performing? You have to put on a different face for that?
Yeah, I mean, less so now than it used to be, which is maybe not good. Now I know my live shows, and I know songs that I kind of need for my live show for energy flow. Like I need an upbeat song. And so now when I write, I make sure that I'm writing songs that will give me a nice, good, complete live show. Okay. Whereas when I first started writing, I was just writing because I wanted to write whatever was on. Yeah. But now it's, I do think more about a live performance than I used to, which I hope is good.
When you write, do you seclude yourself in a back room and don't bother me? I mean, you have a large family.
Yes.
What are we having for dinner? Pizza? What are we, you got to be pulled a jillion different directions. Do you just say, lock the door and say, just leave me alone for 2 hours or 3 hours?
The first phase of writing is I can be interrupted and I can go on with the day, and I can get inspiration in the car or on the plane and write it down. But when it comes time to finish the work, I think 80% of writing a good song, and probably is the same with books, is that last is finishing it, is polishing it and finishing it right. And that's when I live in my pajamas and the kids get cold cereal for dinner. And
oh, mommy's writing it.
Then when I'm rehearsing, they wait until the middle of it when I'm finished a song, and then they'll knock on the door. And a funny story, our house right now, we're getting the basement finished. And I was rehearsing in my room, and I was cold. So even though I had dressed for the day, I put my old ratty bathrobe over my clothes. And I had my guitar, and I was going through my songs. And I was in the middle of the song, and one of my girls was knocking on the door. And I thought, well, I'll just ignore it because she knows she shouldn't interrupt a song. She kept knocking. And in anger, I opened the door. I said, "What do you want?" And right behind her was the builder. And I'm in my bathrobe yelling at my child because she interrupted me. And he goes, "Wow, you're serious about rehearsing." And all I could think to say is, "I've got clothes under my bathrobe."
How would you tell somebody that's listening to this that said, I'd like to be a songwriter? I'd like to. What would you recommend? Just get them started.
The thing I recommend to someone who wants to songwrite is to not be so married to everything you write that you're not open to the fact that maybe it's not the best thing in the world. There's a tendency when you write a new song is to think it's perfect. And now I look back at some of the first material that I wrote, and it's just really not great.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
You cringe, you go like, oh,
yeah, exactly. But if you don't write those, you never get to where you are. But I think I see a lot of songwriters get stuck with those first 10 songs that they wrote, and they just really believe in them so much that they don't continue writing. And maybe you've seen that with authors as well. You can see that they have potential, but because they want to push those first things that they wrote, they neglect the fact that writing is it's work. It's a daily process that you sit down. Creativity is way overrated. Work is really what produces good art, I think.
One of the things that I've kind of observed about some songwriters, because I listen very keenly to lyric of all songs because I'm a poet at heart. And like, let's take an example, Jimmy Buffett. Some of his first couple of albums, they were gems and gems. And his later albums, it was kind of like, it's okay, but it's not like the first stuff was.
I know, you could point to about every artist and say that.
And why do you think that is, and where do you think the demarcation line is?
Do you know, that's a question I really would like to answer. I mean, every artist, Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, they all wrote their best material when they were first starting.
When they were starving.
And I hope that doesn't happen to me. I plan on writing my whole life. And as artists, I really respect them. And Willie has a new CD coming out. I mean, he's amazingly prolific. The only thing that I think that can push past that line of demarcation, as you said, is to push your skill set. And your audience wants you to stay the same. They miss what they felt when they listened to your first CD, like your first Jimmy Buffett album. And as fans, they'll want to keep hearing that. Mm-hmm. But as an artist, the only thing that we can do is just keep pushing the skills set further and trying new things.
So what skills are you acquiring or going to acquire that solve that for you?
For a singer-songwriter, you can push your vocal ability.
Okay.
You can push your guitar skills. You can push your writing skills with writing.
How so?
With writing, I think for me, is learning to be the process of editing for me is something that I've had to learn how to do. For instance, I'll finish a song and run it by some friends of mine, and they'll say, you know, you could redo this and redo that. And it's so hard to go back and change something that it's already in your brain a certain way. But it almost always serves a song better to do some editing on your work, or to have people that you can help filter through, because you just get so attached to it.
One of the things I've learned over the years is it's very difficult to edit your own work.
Yes.
Because you're so close to it, like you're just saying.
Right.
One of the things we discussed this morning was being receptive to editors, making comments and changes and whatever, because just like you just said, you're so into it. Well, that's my baby. I don't want to make any changes. So what I'm hearing you say is you've got to be willing to listen to somebody else's critique,
exactly.
at least be open to possible change.
That's right. And with that, keeping that in mind is knowing when to put your foot down and sticking to something that was original. Right. I have several lines in my songs that people here and there would say, you've got to take that line out. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But to me, it just felt right. I left it, and then I would hear later on, that was such a creative way to say that. And so, yeah, you have to be open to editing, open to changing things, but you also have to know when to put your foot down and say, it's going to remain as is, this part.
Yes, never change the 6 steps into Texas. So. You lose me at that point.
One of the things that you were talking about earlier was that you had not picked up a guitar, had not learned a guitar in the early stages. Is it important as a songwriter to be able to play an instrument of some sort?
Yeah, you need, a singer-songwriter needs to have a lot of versatility. You need to understand not only one instrument, but probably 2 or 3. That pushes your songwriting as well. Mm-hmm. And no matter what the state of your voice, you should be able to at least sing your material. And people that think they don't have a great voice, they don't realize the kind of progress they can make with some good vocal training.
Have you had vocal training?
I did when I was younger. Younger. And it served me well. It's helped protect my voice from injury. So I'm very grateful for that. But, and also for not only a singer-songwriter, but for writers as yourselves, is we also have to understand the world that we live in with social media, with graphic design. We have to understand how to have a presence online. And we have to understand the world that we live in and be able to meet people at their needs.
Right.
Because they'll want to associate with our work based on, not only based on the value of the work, but based on the artist behind that work. People want that. They want to be able to get a sneak peek into your life, and that helps them to connect to the book or the album in a way that's deeper. And so you have not just a fan for that book, but you have a fan for life. You have a group of people that are anxious for everything that comes out because they feel connected to you.
How often do you feel necessary? And we hear all the time that, well, you've got this book out or you've got this article out, you better follow up reasonably quick with something or they're going to forget you. Do you feel a certain urgency to have an album every year or every 6 months? Or how do you look at that?
An album is just like a book. It's impossible to push one through with any quality to it. So I'm always working on a new project. So I'll finish a CD and I'll start at least compiling ideas and formulating for the next. So for me, for a singer, about 1.5 years apart between projects.
I mean, there's some like an Elvis Presley. It seems like I'm dating myself. It seemed like he had a new song every month or so. I mean, he was so prolific.
Yeah, but, and you know what? That would be an interesting thing for someone to explore. To to come up with a song that you could release singles. And I've never tried to do that before, but that would be an interesting strategy.
One of the things that, I'm speaking for myself and maybe not all writers, they're always saying, well, where do you get your ideas and where do you go? And I found that it's not a lack of ideas, it's a lack of time to take on.
Do you find
ideas.
The same thing? Me too.
Is that the way it is with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got all these ideas.
Ideas are easy.
Then,
If somebody says something like the fellow I was telling you about earlier, or somebody says something at a meeting or whatever, I'll write it down. So I've got literally a cardboard box that has all these notes to myself. And then when I moved into our new space, I pinned them up on a corkboard. So I'll sit there and every now and then I'll go through there and go. But what's funny is now I'm getting to the age where I need to put some notes on the back as I go. What does that mean? Where did that come from? It's a good line, but I have no. I have this one line about Marilyn Monroe. I have no clue as to
how you would use it.
What I was going to do with it. No, not at all. Well, is there? We're going to give you plenty of time to rest up before your thing. Is there anything that you want, since we're going to make the audio available to you, that you would like to say to all the people that you write and sing for? A, and then B, what would you say specifically to what you would imagine are the writers in our group?
Well, for the writers in the group, I would just say to treat this as a profession. And I think as Western artists, that's the way that we can elevate our genre, is by really upping our game and giving, and we can do that through organizations like yours, to give each other support, but then to really expect a high standard of quality from everybody. So not only are we giving support to each other, but we're also expecting a nice high standard. And I think that's what Nashville has done right with country music, is they've had a very high standard. And sometimes we've just been happy to get something out, a project done, a CD out, without worrying as much as we should about the quality of our work. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it is with Western writers or with artists, but I do know that we need to hold ourselves to that high standard. And as far as the people that consume this art, I mean, we couldn't do it without people supporting our arts. I ran a crowdfunding campaign for my latest CD, and I didn't know how it would go. It was basically pre-selling the CD at different package levels. And I was amazed with the kind of support that comes behind an artist like myself, and people encouraging us to keep creating, to keep telling this story. And really, ultimately, that's what it's about. We're telling a story. It feels like we are studying history, but someday we are history. Someday we are history, and these conversations and the work that we're creating has to hold up to that standard, that it'll be looked at and honored someday.
Okay. Thanks.
We thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule today. I know you had not originally planned to sit down with us today because you have a concert tonight, but thank you very much. And thank your husband for putting us in touch with you and taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's an honor.
Much success with your ride a wide circle. It sounds like it's off and running great. So
it is. It's doing well.
So you will be selling CDs at your concert tonight, won't you?
Yes.
Okay.
So, great.
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See, you get the